As we missed last week, I wanted to touch on something that actually happened last week, or first kind of broke last week, which was the Apple Beats rumor.
Ooh, that's right.
It's embarrassing that I actually don't know this, but it never did get confirmed, did it?
So it's been a bit of a winding road. So let me start off from the top. Last week, the Financial Times reported that Apple was nearing completion of an acquisition of Beats Audio, which includes Beats Electronics, which is the headphone line, and then and the speakers, and as well as the Beats Music streaming service,
right? Like a Spotify competitor of sorts.
But the crazy part was the amount. I mean, there's many crazy elements to this, but the biggest one was the amount: $3.2 billion, which
with a B,
with a B, which is a lot of money. But you have to consider the fact that I think it was estimated that Beats made close or over $1 billion last year in revenue. So,
wow.
So it is
like
I think
really?
that was estimated, but yeah, those headphones and speakers are.
So wait, it turns out to make $1 billion, all you have to do is make shitty headphones?
I don't know if they're shitty headphones. They might be overpriced headphones.
They are overpriced. They're not terrible, but they're just like most of the premium is associated with the look and feel and the brand association.
And that incredible commercial. They're so good. It's the best.
There was an amazing series of tweets. I think it was like maybe made it into a Tumblr of like kind of like Beats Apple acquisition ad pitches, where basically it's like Tim Cook doing the "I'm the man, I'm the man." Like when people are like freaking out about the fact that Apple's buying Beats. So that was the very first report, and then like Wall Street Journal, like according to their sources, added on top of it. And then it just like one after another, there was a series of corroborating reports from reputable outlets saying that yes, this is indeed true, and it is indeed happening. And then, fantastic of all, was Tyrese hanging out with Dr. Dre. That I think the subsequent night posted a video to Facebook where he's just like talking about how he's like, it's very rare you get to hang out with
a billionaire,
the first billionaire in hip hop, and like Dr. Dre chimes in, he's like, yeah, changing the game, like from the West Coast billionaire, whatever, and it's just sort of like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Like those kind of things can derail acquisitions.
Yeah, I hope it did. I hope that video. I hope Tyrese ruined it.
Like Tim Cook was just like,
watch this video?
Yeah,
I haven't seen it.
That's pretty, I think he pulled it right away.
They pulled it, but
you can't take.
I'm sure it's all over World Star Hip Hop now.
Oh yeah. But no, it was so there was that, and then there's just one after another. There's like nothing but.
So it's still never been announced.
So, but okay, and then now this week, because the original report said that it was going to be finalized sometime this week, and then a report just last night from Recode said that it may not be finalized until next week. So, and that also goes along with another report that suggests that the acquisition and the introduction of Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine as executives at Apple, or coming aboard Apple as part of the acquisition, would be announced at WWDC, which is in early June, right before E3.
Yeah.
So it sounds like this is very much happening, considering the amount of smoke. There must be fire. But, it's a very bizarre thing.
It doesn't seem to make much sense.
Because it's two brands kind of...
It doesn't make any sense at all.
I mean, it makes sense to somebody.
No.
It makes $3 billion worth of sense to somebody.
It's a stupid, bad idea.
I mean, so... Obviously, Beats is very, very successful. The music service, not so much. It's been slow growing.
I do like it, actually.
The music service is kind of neat. They do some cool stuff.
I liked it a lot, but for whatever reason, streaming the songs took up way more bandwidth than Pandora or Spotify, so I couldn't use it on my commute. Otherwise, I actually liked it more than both those services.
Interesting.
Yeah, their whole thing was like the music service. If you're unfamiliar, their whole value proposition is recommendations. So like human curated song suggestions and artist suggestions based on your interest in the artist you're interested in. But also,
what kind of humans?
Real human beings.
Wow.
And real heroes.
Seems like I wouldn't scale very well. But
I got your joke.
Thank you. He starred in that movie.
I was just going to say
that. Mark Ryan Gosling starred in that movie.
I need to get that jacket.
Oh, the drive jacket?
You don't even need to. That's your. If you wear that jacket on Halloween, you don't even need it. Just put on the jacket.
That's
You're
it.
done.
That's it.
Gotta shave the beard, though. Gotta go.
And then
If you want to be Mark Ryan Gosling, you gotta shave
and then
the beard.
just smashing his face in.
Oh, yeah.
What's
And-
that?
What?
Smash my face in?
No, just another dude.
Oh, just like in the elevator, just
Yeah.
starts stomping on his head.
I didn't like that movie.
Oh,
No?
I like that movie.
No, it was bad.
I loved it.
No.
It's awkward. There are awkward
It's
scenes
unsettling.
in that movie. Well, there's just like awkward, like they're just
Yeah.
staring at each other. You're like,
Yeah.
should I be here?
I'm pretty sure it's
What,
a movie.
You guys don't just stare at people?
It's a movie about like two autistic people.
I just stare at people all the time.
I'll often look up and
Just
Scott's just staring.
staring blankly.
True
at you.
story. I took my mom out to dinner last night for her birthday. She was in town, and there was someone sitting next to us who just kept like looking at us like she was a part of our conversation.
That's weird.
That was really
Was she by
weird.
herself?
She was initially, but then someone came and she had someone to talk to. But then just every once in a while, she'd be like,
I don't care for that
Because they
one
thought
bit.
you were Mark Ryan Gosling.
it was really weird.
So some San Francisco restaurants, you'll sit at not like a communal table, but it'll be like a bench table, and so there's people sitting next to you, and like sometimes their conversation can be more dominant than your conversation, then it's like awkward. My wife and I once sat next to this couple that was either on a first date or a blind date. It was awful. It was just really awkward. I'm like, you're not getting a second date, man. Like, just forget it.
Did you really?
Did I say that?
Yeah.
No,
Oh,
of course
I would've
not.
been the best.
No, I'd never say that. I thought it though. I thought it really hard.
You should just like bottom a beer. Be like,
Yeah,
it's not working.
yeah. You should just cut and run, man.
Long story short, this
Beats.
This makes this is very strange for a variety of reasons. First of all, obviously there's the parallel between the fact that Apple sells Beats and they sell a lot of them and they're prominently placed in their stores. I mean, there's that, which is the very basic explanation. It's like Beats is a successful brand that makes a ton of money, and it's often tethered to or aligned with Apple products. People come in and buy their iPhones, buy Beats speakers, buy the Beats headphones. But what's strange about it is behaviorally, at least historically, this is not a type of acquisition Apple has expressed interest in. They acquire small companies no one's ever heard of.
That have some technology that will make their iPhone better.
Yeah, that integrates into the products they own, and they do it quietly, and it's a comparatively small bit of money. They don't do big acquisitions like this. So that's the big thing. But also, for me, what I'm trying to wrap my head around is the idea that because philosophically, Apple has always been about utilitarian or unified ecosystems and products all under a singular brand. And also, again, that idea of we've created it, we have revolutionized blah, blah, blah. This acquisition basically says we need someone else to do something we can't, which is whether that be the headphone element or the inroads with the music industry as part of the streaming service.
Yeah, my guess, and this is coming from a person who has zero insight into the music industry or how well iTunes is doing. My guess is that Apple, they did very well with iTunes when they basically pioneered the MP3 market, right? But I think increasingly people aren't really that interested in buying MP3s. People are interested in streaming music, and I don't know that they've had the same success with streaming on iTunes.
Sales have dropped considerably in digital.
Right. So my guess is that they iTunes Music has become a fairly big business for them, but they see it going down. They see it declining, and they're not able to latch onto this upward swing that things like Spotify are seeing. And so maybe Beats is seeing success there, and they see this as a way to sort of keep afloat their music, their bubble of money coming in from that industry.
Yeah. I mean, I think, iTunes Radio was not a particularly successful product. I mean, it launched, it works fine. It's just there's no real need. If you're an existing Pandora user, you use that. If you are an all-digital person, you just keep buying music. If you're a subscription plan, then you just use that. It doesn't really fit into, it doesn't fulfill any need other than Apple's need, which is to create a product that it owns.
Right.
So that didn't go especially well. And then you've got, companies like Spotify continuing to grow, not necessarily be all that profitable. I mean, the problem is the streaming music is tricky, fickle beast because there isn't a ton of money in it, or at least not for now.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it's the sort of thing that industry is at the stage where there are a bunch of competitors trying to become the only one, and then at that point, then you make all the monies.
Right. Well,
like Amazon, right?
Well, yeah, and I think that the problem is like up until now, the at least labels and artists have been kind of the tide is turning a little bit where artists are like slowly starting to adopt it, and right now Apple has no entry into that market. Like they have no solution, so they are like maybe this is an opportunity to grab Beats Music and create something out of it, or even just operate it.
I don't like it one bit. No, I mean I think so. You've been talking about the streaming business. Makes no sense. They launched Beats Music. It's a good product. Hasn't really been a success of any kind. So if they bought the company for that reason, that's strange to me. Yeah. In terms of the headphone business or the hardware business, speakers, Apple's products, generally speaking, are best of breed. Second to none, industrial design for their computers. The iPhone Android is rapidly catching up, but the iPhone for a long time was the gold standard. Mm-hmm. Whether it is or not, sure, if people like their Android phone, that's fine. Beats are not that. They're not the best of breed headphones. They're not sort of.
They're more of a fashion item.
Yeah. I mean, they really are. It seems very off-brand for Apple, what I think about Apple being, what I think most people think about Apple being, elegant, simplistic. These are not really what Beats are or what they represent or what they're seemed likely to represent in the future. I don't understand how those cultures combine. I don't understand. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't like it.
Well, I mean,
it's also just way too much money in general.
Yeah.
What's kind of interesting is that the last HTC One had Beats sort of integrated in it, right?
Yeah.
And didn't HTC own a part they
had a stake in it, and I think
and then
Beats
they got
bought
out
it
of
back.
it.
Yeah. Or yeah, I think the Beats bought it back. So yeah, they've had a variety of different partnerships. They just launched a new with Harman Kardon, like the speaker brand. They just released a new version of the HTC One in partnership with Sprint. So HTC has kind of moved off into their own world, but that is the one thing that Beats does really, really well is marketing partnerships and that sort of thing. Like
maybe they paid $3.2 billion strictly for the rights to those commercials.
I'm a man.
Maybe. Could be worth it.
They're just the best.
Could be worth it.
You can tell everybody.
Best. Yeah. You can tell everybody.
Well, you introduced me to this. I didn't realize this, but apparently there's extended versions that are 20 minutes.
Well, yeah, I don't know that they're that long, but they're
I feel like we should do one of these internally, but just based on
the ship has sailed.
I think we missed the boat.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah.
Well, seeing as I'm just now hearing about this, there's plenty of content in our comments, on YouTube or on IGN. Just take one of those.
It's actually not a terrible idea.
Yeah.
No, I do think. Who's the executive? Jimmy
Iovine.
Yeah.
I don't know how to pronounce his last
name.
name.
I don't know either.
Yeah, I've only ever read it, never spoken it aloud until now.
He's supposedly, a music industry oracle. Mm-hmm. I don't follow the music industry closely enough to really speak to that with any kind of authority.
He's been in the industry since the 70s.
Basically, every single revolution in how music is sold and consumed, he was, early to.
He's part of he helped with iTunes.
Was a pioneer of MP3s, and then he recognized when that business was declining and was a pioneer in streaming. And even that MP3 business was very wildly experimental in terms of when people are still just selling albums and selling CDs. So the only real compelling argument that I've heard is that this is the world's most expensive acqui-hire of all time, which is where you buy a whole company basically just for the employees or just for the founders. That's what a lot of Facebook's early acquisitions were. Was they didn't really care about the product; they just wanted that team to build a similar product. And so maybe Apple spent billions of dollars just to lure a couple experts that can be a part of that senior Apple staff and help guide them to a successful future.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be really cool if Tech-Fetish got acqui-hired for $3.2 billion?
I would just take. You could take 4 zeros off that. Now I'd still be happy.
Yeah.
What if like it came down to like 1 billion for you, 1 billion for you, and then like 1.2 billion for me? Would you guys?
I would kill the whole thing.
Yeah. No deal.
I would $32.
$32?
Yeah.
We'll sell. That's
Yeah.
not bad. Yeah.
We'd just change the name.
Yeah. Fresca fetish.
Yeah.
No, I think it could be a couple of scenarios. Like they get that acqui-hire, they get Dre, they get Jimmy, they just act as like a silent owner of Beats and help where they can in terms of efficiency, broad worldwide scale, maybe a cross-branded product at some point, but just letting Beats continue to do what Beats does, and instead of splitting the profit with somebody, just absorbing it all. Or at least, fewer parties. And then for Beats Music, absorb it, create something new, under the guidance of Jimmy, because the thing that he brings to it is respect in the industry and with the key stakeholders.
Yeah, I mean, this is the op-ed that I read, and again, I don't know too much about the music industry, but he's one of those executives that supposedly is the real deal.
Right.
Genius, never wrong, very widely respected, probably almost single-handedly is responsible for the success that Beats has had. Who else can release that? If that $1 billion sales figure is true, that blows me away. That's probably 10 times more larger than I thought Beats was.
Yeah.
So if you can make so-so headphones and charge too much for them and then make $1 billion, okay.
Yeah. Well, it's all markup.
Yeah. I'm looking at an article that was published 2 days ago on The Guardian. They say that Beats had just recently reached 111,000 subscribers, which is not that many.
The Beats music service. Yeah.
That's that's a little bit more than I would have guessed. They're all paid.
Spotify has 24 million.
Yeah, they don't have a free option. Yeah, Spotify blows it out of the water, no doubt.
I guess only 6 million of which are paying subscribers.
Yeah.
But still.
Anyway, it's very interesting. We'll see how it kind of shapes out in the next week or so.
Or will we?
Maybe. Or maybe Drake killed it all by letting Tyrese record him.
What could be the most wrong that this rumor it could be? The most wrong would be that it's Microsoft buying Astro.
Someone at Apple bought a song on Beats Music for $3.2.
Yeah. Or they bought a beat.
Not one beat.